Welcome back to the Goalie Corner presented by One Stop Goaltending. I'm Michael. Today we got Billy Cawthorn and for the fourth time in a row, Cody Carisi. Um, Today's topic is going to be a little bit lighter than last week's topic. Last week we talked about the role of player agents or agents and advisors. If you have any questions, I suggest that's a great spot to start with finding out information. Um, this week's episode, we're talking about we each picked two future goalies of the NHL or who we think are going to be future goalies in the NHL, prospects, people that have caught our eye in the AHL, maybe in the WHL or NCAA, and we think are going to become good NHL goalies. Before we start, how we're going to do this is we're going to go kind of around in a circle with one pick, round one, and then we'll have a second round pick. All right. Who out of you two wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay. Who do you got number one on your list?
So first, I'll start with a prospect, and I'm gonna go with Adam Guyan. Um, Watched some of his tape in the USHL with Green Bay, and obviously last year he had that awesome game against, or I guess 2 years ago now, that awesome game against Canada. He made 56 saves in overtime or whatever. He was supposed to be the third string goalie. Came in for Slovakia, was unbelievable. Went second round to Chicago in the 2023 NHL entry draft, 35th overall.
Yeah.
And I just think he's this World Juniors, he had 2.5 with a 916 save percentage, and I don't think stats are everything. Like, you look at his numbers this year. He played 43 games, which is a pretty heavy workload in junior. He had a 330 goals against and an 893 save percentage. Some people might look at that and think, oh, well, that's not that great. Um, if you're having a 330 goals against with close to a 900 save percentage, you're probably getting at least 35, 40 shots a night. Um, and that's in 43 games. So that's a pretty heavy workload. He made 1,100 saves. And he was still 23-12 record. So I think this guy's a winner wherever he goes. He, took Slovakia to the quarterfinals, um, and every year in the last 2 years, he's been on winning teams. And again, that's kind of one thing where it's like, if I see a goalie have unbelievable numbers, let's say a 950 save percentage with like a 1.25 goals against, yeah, of course he's going to have a winning record. But when I see a goalie maybe have a bit of a higher goals against and then around that 900 save percentage, but his record is still like, 23-12, even though he's facing close to 35, 40 shots a night. I think for me, that's a guy that's clearly doing the right things and it's clearly has the trust of his coach if he's playing 43 games. So, and then as far as like his play, I want to touch on a bit. He's great at playing the puck. Feel free to look up some videos of him on YouTube. Unbelievable puck handler, very athletic. He's going to Minnesota Duluth next year, and I would probably project him to be in the NHL by 26, 27, 2 years at Duluth, and I think he'll be at maybe AHL, NHL guy, and then break into the NHL. So that's kind of Adam Guyan. And
Perfect. You answered all the questions I was going to ask you, right? 26, 27 season, you said, right? So he's got 2 years. Do you think there's room to grow in Chicago?
yeah, 100%. I think they're a young team. It's another reason why I picked him. They just had a great draft the last 2 days. Couple great players that they picked up. They obviously have Bedard. I think Mrazek will probably be moving on again in the next 2 years. I think he's got a year or two left on his contract. Don't quote me on that. And then they don't have a ton of guys, coming up. They have Stauber, who's a pretty good young goalie himself, but I think Guyan's going to kind of be the guy to run with it as long as he keeps putting up the numbers that he's putting in.
Perfect. All right, Creasy, you're going to have to top that one.
Well, my first pick is Thomas Milic. He is drafted in the fifth round to the Winnipeg Jets. Basically, he checks all the stats other than his size. Played in the Western League with the Thunderbirds. Won the league in his last year. Or I know he won the league. Played Team Canada, U17, U18, U20. Great stats with them. Great stats all around. Played in the Manitoba Moose this year. Had a 272 and a 900 save percentage in 33 games. It's pretty good for a
Yeah.
rookie. I've watched him play quite a bit. He's not the biggest guy. What is he? He's 6 foot right now, but he is one of the goalies he's just there. Doesn't
Mhm.
He's not flashy at all. He has amazing footwork, gets around the net really good.
Makes it look
Um,
easy.
yeah, he's one of the goalies that just make it look so simple. I've been on the ice with him a few times, and he just makes the drills look easy. It just
Mhm.
goes for him. He has a bunch of like trophies under his belt. Won the one of his biggest accomplishments so far is playing for the World Juniors, starting goalie for the World Juniors, and winning.
Yeah.
He won that year, I think.
Yeah.
So this guy wins a lot of games. His record um, in his draft year at the NHL, he went
Well, he actually was undrafted for a couple of years
yeah,
and
he
then
went
got
2 years
drafted in his last
undrafted.
year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which was kind of surprising. I think the biggest knock on him was his size.
yeah,
And he's done nothing but prove that that's not an issue,
yeah,
right? And his last year juniors, Thunderbirds were unbelievable, Seattle in the
yeah,
WHL, and they won the WHL and were runners up in the Memorial Cup
yeah,
here in Kamloops. Devastating.
yeah. He had that year he only lost 3 games in the regular season. He went like 27-3, I believe.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Do you know what it like? So he's with Winnipeg, right? So they obviously
yeah,
have Hellebuck,
yeah,
he's getting older, but the way he plays, I think he can last a long time.
yeah.
I think their backup is Boursois
Yeah, they
again.
have Brisbois back again.
Do you think there's room for him to grow up into the NHL like within the next 3, 4
Well,
years?
yeah, one of the big things with him is that like a lot of people doubted him in every level that he's been at.
Hmm.
Um, and he's proven himself. Like he proved himself at the juniors, he proved himself in the ECHL, he proved himself in the AHL and won himself a contract with the Jets. So I feel like he's going to be able to prove himself to make that step to the NHL. And the Jets, they've moved goalies around in recent years. Other than Hellebuck, they've moved their goalies around. So
Hmm.
you know that they have the capability to push him up there to get him some NHL game time.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pick a podcast um, friend who has done nothing but win his whole life. I don't think it's anybody's surprise if they've known me. I talk about this guy all the time. Clay Stevenson, playing for the Hershey Bears, just won the Calder Cup. I think it's called, right? Yeah, thanks. This is his first full year in the AHL. The season before he played in the East Coast, um, dominating in the East Coast. He's a big guy, 6'4", moves like a 6 foot goalie, which means exceptional. Played Dartmouth for 2 years, except one year was COVID. Exceptional there. Played in the BC, exceptional there. This past year in Hershey, first year being full time in the AHL, he split the games with the guy who's been there longer. He's played 36 games. He had a 2.06 save or goals against average and a 922 save percentage, 7 shutouts, which set a record for the most shutouts in the AHL, I believe. Um, and at that time, it was like the most consecutive minutes without letting a goal in as well, which is crazy. In the playoffs, he did only play 2 games. In those 2 games, he had a 1.8 goals against average and 900 save percentage. So like nothing too spectacular or too unexpected. But still good stats. He not surprisingly, shockingly, has a contract with Washington. They did just trade Darcy Kemper away to LA, I believe, unless I'm making that up. So I think there is room to grow, and he's done nothing but get better with his stats. In the East Coast, he had a 2.5 goals against average. Now he has a 2.06, right? The year before in Dartmouth, yeah,
They did just acquire Logan Thompson from Vegas as well.
that's
One
dead.
thing to
Yeah, I mean, they have what, Lindgren and Thomas then?
Thompson, yeah, still lots of room to grow, I'd say.
But
I'd
they
start
have
with those.
Lindgren as well, right?
Yeah,
So they have two. Thompson went to, I didn't even know about that. That's a
that's
big move.
today. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think between those two, Thompson's probably going to be the favorite to be the starter, with Lindgren being a solid backup, or they flip one of them, right? Um, I still think there's room for this guy to prove himself more than just one season in AHL and then step into the NHL or get more experience. I don't think they're going to try. I don't think the NHL is going to rush anybody anymore into the NHL like they did with Price and a few other guys. I think they're going to let them to develop, prove themselves without a benefit, without a shadow of a doubt, and then step into the NHL, right? Especially with like Milic, right? I think there's no rush. They got Hallebuck, they have Boissois. They're both solid. Hallebuck is exceptional. There's no rush, right? The same thing kind of goes with Dylan Grand. He's not my second pick, but I do want to put him on the list. Like he's doing well with the team that he has at Hartford. He's not doing exceptional, but he's not doing bad, right? He's doing what he needs to do and getting better each year. And he's kind of stuck behind Shesterkin, right? I don't think anybody's in a rush to get rid of Shesterkin, if I even said that name right, right? So my number one pick is Clay Stevenson. He is rising. The Spit and Chicklets have mentioned him before. Kind of cool. Um, he's young. He's only 25, right? So he can easily break into the league 27, 28, 29, which I know it might be hard. Clay, if you're listening, sorry. That might be hard to hear, taking an extra 3, 4 years, but I don't think there's a shadow of doubt that you'll be there, in my opinion. Billy,
That's right in
back
the
to
prime.
that's what? Right in the prime? That is right in the
That's right in
prime.
the prime.
Yeah. He's making good money. So,
Um, yeah, I'll talk about a guy that I believe is up and coming now. Not necessarily a prospect, but he did win an NHL Rookie of the Month in October this past season, and that is Lucas Dostal. So this past season was his first full NHL season. Yeah, he played 44 games, so pretty much split with John Gibson in Anaheim. He had a
whoa.
330 goals against with a 902 save percentage. I'd seen him play against Calgary last year. Last year he only played 19 games, and he's not a big guy. He's 6 foot, but he moves very well. Moves around the crease very efficiently, and he actually won a gold medal with Czechia at the World Championships this past season. He also won goalie of the tournament, and he won one of the top 3 players for Czech Republic, and he just had a heck of a tournament there. He was on the tournament all-star team, and his tournament stats in the World Championships, he played 8 games. He had a 939 save percentage with a 158 goals against. So he's really breaking out. And I think, this was his rookie season, but I think Gibson still has 3 years on his contract with Anaheim. But I could definitely see Dostal at, he's born in 2000, so he's only 24. In the next 2-3 years, really maybe move into that starting position if Anaheim moves Gibson, or once Gibson's contract's up, Dostal will be about 27, and he'll be ready to, be a solid starting goalie in the NHL.
Do you
Yeah,
think like it would be hard to, in my opinion, with the history and loyalty that Gibson showed to the Ducks, it'd be hard to take him out of that starting role.
oh, definitely. That's why I'm kind of saying, like, unless they move him,
Yeah,
which would be tough. I don't really. I see Dostal maybe continuing to play 30, 40 games.
just
Next few seasons.
have a lighter load for both those guys.
Yeah,
Wow.
just splitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to
Um,
add about him? How do you say his name?
Lucas Dostal.
Dosto.
He was drafted third round in 2018, 85th overall.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I mean, smaller guy from the Czech Republic. It was his rookie season this year, and I just think that he's a guy that's at least for me as a fan of the Canadian teams and following the Calgarys and the Edmontons, Vancouvers, etc. And especially following the good teams. Again, the Carolinas, maybe the Rangers, Florida. No one really talks about the Ducks very much, let alone their fringe starting goalie. But what he did in the World Championships and what he did this season, to be frank, I mean, again, kind of similar to Guyan, like fairly high goals against, but still right as a 902 save percentage. 35, 40 shots a night, keeping his team in it. So I think it's a guy to keep an eye on for the next few years.
Awesome. Cody, who's your second overall pick here?
Yeah, well, I want to note that we're recording this on the day that LT, like Logan Thompson, got traded,
Yeah.
and the Golden Knights just picked up Akira Schmid. So
Where
if
was
something would
he?
happen, he was with the Devils.
Okay, I didn't know if he was still there or not after the blunder of the playoffs before.
Yeah. So I'm picking Akira Schmid as my second pick, not because of stats or anything, mainly because of the organization he's going to. You've seen, like we've seen who comes out of that organization. You have LT, who's an all-star. You have Aiden Hill, who's grown himself. You have had Brissois, who is a Stanley Cup champion now. Like you have a bunch of big name goalies that have
Marc-Andre
made a name for
Fleury.
themselves. Yeah, I would say Fleury, but he wasn't. It wasn't Vegas that pushed him to be an all-star.
Yeah,
It was the
he was already
Penguins.
established.
It was yeah. So I'm just thinking that Akira Schmid guy to look out for because you know that Vegas likes to push their goalies to the next level.
Yeah.
He hasn't had amazing stats. He also hasn't played very much. He's been in the league for like really 2 seasons, but he's kind of been down in the AHL.
It's kind of like a similar Andon Hill situation, right? Andon Hill
Mhm.
started with the Coyotes, did pretty good, like Schmidt did with the Devils, and then they're just not strong teams, and it's kind of easy to blame the goalies for goals against average,
Yep.
right? Now you're going to a team that's can easily rebuild confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's a big goalie too. He's 6'5". Like
Yeah.
he's gonna take up the net. Vegas likes their big goalies. You
Mm-hmm.
have with LT, he's probably 6'4" or something. So yeah, they have picked up a 6'5" goalie. I just think that he's gonna become something, especially with who he's going to and what they bring.
Yeah. I don't hate that pick. I don't go back and listen to last year or 2 years ago podcasts where Logan and I, or not Logan, where Cody and I kind of take a dump on Schmid in the playoffs. But like it's everything's like the here and now, right?
Yeah.
If he not redefines himself, but gains that confidence back that got him to the NHL and can keep him in the NHL, then he can easily be a dominant goalie. Right?
Yep.
Devils just didn't have the team in front of him to help him. He was super young, right? I think he was 22.
Yeah,
He
he's
must
only
be like
24 right
23.
now.
Yeah.
He's only 24.
Yeah. So he's very young, right?
Yep.
So a lot of growth still. So who does Vegas have as like their favorite for a
Vegas right
starter?
now has Hill, Schmid, and Robin Leonard.
Leonard's still there. technically.
On the website, it still has Leonard on the
Is that kind of like Dallas Stars still has Braden Holtby?
probably.
Thanks, Billy. I always love your thumbs up. Okay. So is there anything else that you want to try to convince someone that he's up and coming or still gonna make a name for himself? Any
No,
other points?
I just think he's going to a good team.
My final pick. I've been in this guy's corner for a long time and trying to get him on the podcast. So if anybody knows him, please ask him for me. I've reached out to him a couple times on his Instagram. Not surprising he hasn't reached out back because he probably gets a ton of DMs. But Dustin Wolf absolutely dominated WHL, absolutely dominated AHL for, in my opinion, too long. I think it's a bit of a joke that last year was his first game in the NHL, but being part of Calgary Flames organization and who they had as GM and coach, they don't like short guys. Doesn't matter what position, especially goalies. He was stuck behind Markstrom and a bit of a revolving door of backups until recently. I think Dustin Wolf last season, 2.45 goals against average in the AHL, 922. Am I on the same guy here? 922 save percentage, 36 games in the AHL. 17 games in the NHL, 3.16, which I don't think is bad for Calgary last season. And 893, which I don't think is bad. I don't think it's exceptional and what I was expecting, but again, not a great team. I think he would slide in nicely this season, maybe even next season as a 1A, 1B type system, instead of starter backup. Give him some more games, get him some more confidence, kind of keep moving him forward, right? That's my second round pick. I want to say some honorable mentions, especially for the podcast. Dylan Grand, obviously. I think he can still make a name for himself for sure. I'm going to say Matthew Caron, who I don't know if he's signed anything recently or yet. DC boy, podcast friend, played in Brown University for 2 seasons, went to Boston University during last off season for last season, played exceptional. He even got a call out on Spit and Chicklets podcast too. Lost in the finals of the Frozen Four, unfortunately, with a little bit of a hiccup goal. Played 40 games this year in the NCAA for Brown University. 2.35 goals against average, 9.15 save percentage, 2 shutouts. I think he's someone to watch, right? I don't know where he's going to end up, but I think he's someone to watch. Anybody else you guys want to give an honorable mention to? Okay.
How many games has Levi played this year?
Ooh, in the NHL?
Yeah,
Devin Levi, it doesn't, 23 games.
23 games. I feel
Yeah.
like he could also be another guy.
I think he's inevitable, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I didn't call him out or pick him because like B Buffalo it just happened too fast, right? Sit back in the AHL, get that confidence back, and we'll have you, right? So Devin Levi this year in the NHL, 23 games, again for Buffalo. So not a great team. 3.1 goals against average and an 899 save percentage, right? So he's right there with doing it, right? This year in the NHL, goalie stats were worse hit across the board. People had lower save percentage than normal and higher goals against than normal, right? So that means the game is adapting to be players, right? Last couple of years, it was goalie heavy with really good save percentage, really good goals against average. And I think it's because I don't want to say it's because of the Panda, but it's because the the overlap was more prominent, taking away those kind of cheesy goals. And then also the RVH helped with those cheesy goals as well, making it harder on shooters. Well, now the shooters have adapted to figure out something, right? So now it's back into the goalie's hands. We'll take a year or two with lower stats and or worse stats and adapt our game somehow, some way to complement that, right? In the AHL, Devin Levi, sorry, not Dustin, played 26 games, had a 2.42 goals against average and a 927 save percentage, right? In both cases, he has more wins than losses for both teams. So I think he's right there, right? Give him another year of going in between and then make him full time. Most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a good shout. That's a good shout.
I think they're in a tough spot though. That Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen they have is also a 2000, and he's also a very good goalie. I think he played like 60 games this year, 50 something games. So
for him, I think it's how do we keep him firing at that high level and not overworking him?
100%. So you have a good 1-2 punch there, but those are two guys that are kind of looking to be starters. So it's going to be interesting to see what Buffalo does in that situation. I'd give a shout out to Reed Dick. He's
I just interviewed him.
Swift Current Broncos goalie, drafted by Boston. Seen him play a number of times. Very good goalie, very positionally sound.
Did he just get drafted this year or in the past?
No, in the past.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. I'm going to let everybody know real quick. Billy, you keep talking.
He was drafted by Boston 2 years ago, I believe. And yeah, he's very calm, very, relaxed in the net. He's about 6'5". I think just seeing what he did with Swift Current this year, Boston's got a log jam, but I could definitely see him, being a guy that plays 1 year in the AHL and is in the NHL, whether that's in Boston or somewhere else.
He is going to be on episode 105, which comes out September 19th. So stay tuned for that. I know it's like a month and a bit away now, but very good conversation, very good insight, and very down to earth individual. So that's cool. That was cool for me. Thanks, Billy.
Yeah,
Billy didn't even know that.
Worries.
Anybody else that you can think of, Cody, or are we good?
I'm good.
We're good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I almost forgot we're doing a podcast, to be honest with you. It just felt like a natural conversation. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you think we missed out on somebody, please let us know whether or not that's on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Probably not on Apple because it's a nightmare to check those analytics. But let us know. And we'll probably do this at least once a year because it's just fun. It's light. It's hopefully an easy listen. And just like last episode, if you're just listening to this to fall asleep, hopefully you're having a good sleep by now. Anyways, thank you. And see you guys next week.